All right. Hello. Welcome, neighbors. Here we are, Tonto National Forest. And gosh, it's nice up here. We happen to be in a campground which isn't open right now. It's open in the summer. It's off season because there's snow and everything. Of course, right now it's gorgeous. It's the middle of winter and it's like 58 degrees, blue sky, sunny sky, full sun. Just gorgeous. So we're just like exploring this thing because we have sort of an idea of becoming campground hosts, which would be awesome. You just park here, you get a free parking spot, and you're campground host for 2 or 3 months. Live in your RV, which we have, and enjoy. Anyways, this is the Tonto National Forest, and we're in this abandoned campground, which is, as I said, open in the summer. Right now it's the middle of February, and well, actually late February now. Man, February has flown by. Good grief. Leap year, don't forget, 29 days in February this year. So, extra day. It is leap year. But here in the tall pines, these are the tall pines, and they are tall and lovely and glorious. And then down here is where the campground host would live. There's a little picnic area and a pit toilet over here, and the campground host rig would be there. You know how I know that? I know that's where the campground host stays because I saw the sign, campground host. Now, I'm no dummy. Don't have to hit me upside of the head with a 2x4 to know my way around. So we're kind of exploring the campground. Never been up here. It's about a 40-minute drive from where we live. About 35 miles, 38 miles, something like that. Nice drive. State Road 260 east-west goes from Payson to Show Low. It's a great road because there's nobody on it hardly, especially in the winter. Just a beautiful, beautiful drive from beginning to end. There's Whiskey. Hi, Whiskey. Yeah, he's having a ball. We put bells on him because in case there are any black bears. There are black bears up here, and they tend to be very, very tame and sort of shy. They're not grizzlies or brown bears. There he goes. Thinks he's a greyhound. Runs like one. Here's some more toilets. Now we're getting up into the campground itself, where, you know, again, they got picnic area. Just beautiful. They did their best up here. It's really nice to see what they did because they created a campground with minimal effect on the forest. I mean, they just cleared away something. We're in, as it says here, we're in the Tonto National Forest. And there's water and there's stuff. There's a couple of garbage dumpsters. Need those. But wow, it's awesome. It's awesome. And it reminds one up here. It reminds one of one's freedom ultimately. And freedom is a tough one because we're so far from being free that we almost don't know what it feels or looks like anymore. Oh, we think we're free, but the way we're conditioned by society, both religious and secular, is amazing. And of course, I'm really interested in religious freedom because I was a perpetrator for 3.5 decades of bondage and really wasn't aware of it until about the last 5 or 7 years. I became aware that what I was doing as a pastor was keeping people away from experiencing, there he goes, from experiencing God And I had bought into all of the false values of the public church, which are not biblical. They're man-made. They're purely man-made. One of them is submission to authority, which is purely man-made. Do you know that in the New Testament, and if I'm wrong, I'll double check, but I know I'm not wrong. There is not one instance in the entire New Testament, the Gospels, the letters, Book of Revelation, there's not one incident in the entire New Testament where any one person is said to have authority over another person. I don't know if you realize that, but it is, look at that dog, he's just amazing. You know why he's running back and forth? Because his granny, my wife, has gone one way and I've gone another, and he wants to make sure we're both okay, so he runs back and forth. Don't you? Don't you? Don't you, Whiskey? He's a good boy. So he'll take off back after her now to make sure she's okay. And then I'll run back and make sure I'm okay. There he goes. And of course, he's happiest when we're together. It's amazing how instinctively we're happy when we're together. Anyways, not one incident in the entire New Testament where the word authority is used as one person having authority over another. Not one instance. None. None. The only authority that people have in the New Testament is over spiritual issues. Demons, the New Testament says. You can take that any way you want. Spiritual authority, but not authority over anybody else. In fact, even elders are carefully said to be servants, examples, not authority figures. It's not how it works. But of course, the church has humanistically and in a corrupted way made authority a centerpiece of New Testament church life. Quote, New Testament, unquote, church life, because it's not. And so we have all these issues about submit to the pastor, submit to the leadership, submit. Not biblical. Completely secular, completely manipulative. And so when you're talking about freedom, you have to begin with the understanding that the New Testament church, as we know it, quote unquote, quote New Testament unquote, because it's not, church has corrupted the issue of freedom and basically turned the lie into a truth and the truth into a lie, which basically is that, well, freedom is gained by submitting to and being loyal to and submitting to the authority of your local church. I mean, that is propagandist. There's nothing more propagandist than the church, public church. It is a veritable propaganda machine. I know, because I did it. And I oversaw other pastors for years in my role as an area pastor coordinator. And the whole thing is built around being submitted to your pastor. I sat in a church service a while back, a few years ago, when we were visiting a church, in which they were, maybe I already mentioned this, if I did, I'm sorry, but in which they were laying hands on and establishing new prayer counselors and sort of like, you know, people who are authorized to minister to other people. You have to be authorized, by the way. You can't love on or minister to somebody in the church without being authorized. Can't be a small group leader in your home without being authorized. Everything's about submitting to authority, which is completely corrupt and false and not biblical. Anyways, in this service, they were publicly laying hands on people to authorize them. You know, okay, you can, you know, you can commune with someone. We give you permission. Only in the church's name, though. So these people, there's about a dozen or so, were required to pledge allegiance to the pastor by name and pledge loyalty to the pastor and the church by name. There you have, look at this. Wow. What an amazing view. All the way down to a canyon down here. Wow. I don't know if you can see that, but it's gorgeous. And then back up to this beautiful pine forest. Just amazing. Pledging allegiance. So when you talk about freedom, if you really think you want to experience freedom, the first thing to do is run from any religious organization, any institution, where any hint of submitting to authority is mentioned. Right there you know that this is not a biblical... There goes my dog. He thinks he's a greyhound too. Any hint of submission to authority. It does not exist in the New Testament church and only exists in the public fake New Testament church, because the public fake New Testament church needs you to be grounded and welded to itself so that they have the bodies and the money to pay their pastor, pay their mortgages, pay their bills. It's an institution. It has a mouth and needs to be fed. And I don't say that to be mean. It's just the truth. Somebody has to say it. Nobody says it. And as I've said before, if you love your church, I'm not here to tell you not to go to church. That's not my message. My message is to understand that the church you go to probably, I don't know for sure because there are exceptions, of course, but the great probability is that the church you love is not biblical at all, other than they preach sermons based on the Bible. But so do Jehovah's Witnesses and Mormons and all kinds of people. So do Jews. I mean, there's nothing wrong with any of them, except that the evangelical fundamentalist church in America calls all those others cults or unsaved. And the church in America, the public church in America, the church that you and I were raised in, is the biggest, most competent cult of them all. Why? Because it's got us all buffaloed. Almost all of us. Not me. Maybe not you. So I'm not here to say don't go. I say it over and over again. If you love your church and love your pastor and love to hear him preach, great. Go. If it makes you feel good and you want to feel, if that's your object in life, to feel good, go. But if you're going because you think you're obligated to go, or it makes you more spiritual, or God approves and would disapprove if you don't go, you've bought the lie. Again, Mike, one of my mottos is, God is not waiting for you to get to church on Sunday. He doesn't care. You might as well go to the movies. It's no different. And if you think that not going to church is somehow dangerous, or you'll lose out or miss God, that is a great indicator that you've been had by the scam. So I don't hate church. There's churches, a couple of churches, well, one church particularly I love to visit occasionally, because I love to hear that guy preach. He's tremendous. He's a great storyteller, a great preacher, but I don't go there to meet God. I've already met God. I know God. I've got God. I don't need to go to church. And if I don't go to church ever again, it doesn't matter to God at all. Stand fast, Galatians chapter 5. Stand fast, therefore, in the liberty wherewith Christ has made you free, and be not entangled again in the yoke of bondage. And the great entanglement in the yoke of bondage today is the public American church. Great entanglement there. Hey, so glad you're with me. Love to be out here in the forest. I'm so glad you're out here with me. And feel free to stay with me. And if you like and subscribe. Subscribe. And you'll make sure you see all the videos that come out. I try to make one about twice a week. And this is the day. So welcome again, neighbor, to our little life here in the forest. And don't be entangled again. Stand fast in your liberty. Don't be entangled again in religious bondage. See you next time. This is former pastor, prodigal pastor, with you. And I'll see you next time.